next speaker is Jamie Glazov. He's the managing editor of Front Page Magazine, which is an online publication founded by David Horowitz. A lot of us know that name, yeah. And he specializes in Soviet studies and U.S. and Canadian foreign policy. His father and mother were from Russia, and his father actually was a Russian dissident. So you can probably get a pretty good idea of his background, of how he was brought up, realizing the dangers of communism, socialism, and all governments that take away your rights one by one until you don't have any left. So he's kind of decided that he wants to expose what's going on right now and how it's not quite as blatant to some people, but our rights are being taken one at a time, always for a good reason. But it was that way back in the days when his father was fighting against it. Jamie published a book called United in Hate, The Left's Romance with Tyranny and Terror. He also hosts a website TV show. I really hope you all will Google this. It's the Glazov Gang. And please check it out on Facebook or go to jamieglazov.com. You've got your program here today, so now you kind of know where all these speakers are, and they really appreciate your listening. That's how we're going to make an impact. All of us knowing what these men and women have done to educate us. So I hope you give him a nice round of applause.
Thank you very much for having me here today. It's a real honor. Ladies and gentlemen, my mom and dad were dissidents in the former evil empire in the Soviet Union. They stood up for freedom and liberty. We were persecuted for our Christianity, and they missed it by an inch to go to the Gulag, and we escaped from the Soviet Union when I was a very little boy. And I will tell you that we escaped the Soviet Union, but today the Soviet Union has come to us. And it's very frightening, it's depressing, it's very, very scary for my family and for all of us to see what's happening to the West. And for me personally, because I'm so grateful to have come to America and how much I love this country. And it's depressing to see the forces that are taking over, that are now ruling academia, ruling the government, and as my topic here today in the video that we just watched, the news and the media. Now, I'm an expert, or excuse me, I'm a student and try to be an expert, but my main field is I study the left. I'm interested in this force called the left and how it's taking over our culture, why it's controlling our media, how it's controlling our news, how we got here, and how we can take it back in the little time we have. So how I want to crystallize this is in terms of my background, growing up since I was a little kid, I was very, very much studying the news and how the left was shaping the discourse, because the left is in control of our media. And I was very interested in all the anti-American themes and the attacks on the nuclear family, for instance, on tradition, on the Judeo-Christian tradition, and on somehow whitewashing communism. And, you know, we know what side the left was on in terms of the Vietnam War and where it stands on Castro today, etc. But since the fall of communism, we know who our new threat, what our new threat is, and who poses a threat to the West now. And this is the key. Now, this is what is so frightening. When ISIS attacks, when Boko Haram kidnaps the little girls, when Al-Qaeda does what it's doing, for some reason we have to go, we're sorry, we're not racist, we're not Islamophobic. You see, the left has shaped this pernicious boundary of discourse where if you study sociopaths, for instance, if you study psychopaths, they punch you in the face and then you have to say you're sorry, because the victim becomes the perpetrator and the perpetrator becomes the victim. They are winning. So what's happening today, let me give you a crystal clear picture, because this is what's happening in our media and in our news. But I will tell you This is the image you have to have in mind. Frightening, horrifying image. Rotherham, United Kingdom. Recently, 1,400 cases of little young white girls was discovered that they were kidnapped into Muslim rape gangs. Look it up, Muslim rape gangs, Rotherham. Pakistani Muslims are kidnapping, are putting these young white girls, kafir girls, they see them as kafir girls, into rape gangs, and they're raping them and putting them into prostitution. Child services didn't do a thing. Police authorities didn't do a thing. The left covered it up. Why? Because what's happening is when a Pakistani Muslim cab driver is sitting outside the school waiting to prey on these girls and to groom them, the culture has forced the teachers and the police to go, wait a minute, look at that convent over there with all those old Catholic nuns. We need to keep an eye on them too, right? Because we can't be racist because everyone is equal. All cultures are equal. All religions are equal. We should not be racist. This mentality, and by the way, I'm not saying that we should be racist. I'm just saying how they've constructed the paradigm. This has led to the city's Labour MP Sarah Champion recently stated that as many as 1 million children in the United Kingdom have been victimized by Muslim rape gangs. But on the altar of utopian leftist ideals, it has been allowed. In other words, for the sake of this leftist philosophy, Stalinism happened, Maoism happened, Khmer Rouge happened, and now the killing fields in the United Kingdom, where Muslim rape gangs are reading the Quran, reading the Hadith, which justify kidnapping and raping the kafir, and they're doing it. And we're not allowed to say anything because the way the left has shaped the discourse is if we try to save the victims of Islamic gender apartheid, we're racist. Now, I'm directly connecting this to my topic because this mentality has shaped our news industry. Even when you watch Fox News, yes, there's still a few heroes left trying to tell the truth. But if you watch carefully, you can never say Islam. You have to say radical Islam. Maybe you even should say extremist radical Islam before it. I mean, some of them are even saying extremist radical Islamists now. I mean, what is a radical Islamist as opposed to a moderate Islamist? But what I'm pointing to is the way that the culture is thinking. Now, why we have failed as conservatives, this is the key. What has happened? How do we bring it back? What has happened? What has happened is that we are not... Have you watched one program on TV where they've actually talked about what I just said? Have you watched one program where they said, why have 1 million English girls been kidnapped and raped by Muslim rape gangs? And when did you ever see a guest like Robert Spencer be invited and said, because of Surah 4:3 in the Quran, that's why. And that's why ISIS and Boko Haram point to that verse and all the other verses every time. But we're not allowed to tell the truth. How did this happen? Quickly, I want to crystallize what the left is, because I've been studying why millions of my people were killed and why they're here now and what they're doing. The left. It is my book, United in Hate. I was fascinated by how the left took the side of Islam after 9/11 and during 9/11, of course, even before, but I explained it in my book of what brings Obama to support Morsi instead of being against Morsi. Why are they thinking this way? Very, very quickly, because I don't have much time, but I just want to draw and illuminate a picture for you. It was the first lie, and it happened in the Garden of Eden. You can be God. The Tower of Babel, you can be God. Now, I'm a Christian. I don't build a perfect world. That comes from Jesus Christ. That comes from God, okay? My job is to say I'm sorry and repent every day and thank Christ for dying for me on the cross. I'm not here to build a perfect world, but the left is, because the left has bought into that lie. We are the self-appointed social redeemers. We're going to build a perfect planet. We're all going to be equal, and we're all going to hold hands. And if you watch Obama very carefully, this is the problem. It's very infectious. that utopian lie. Satan knows what he's doing. He knows that instinct in humans after the fall, the same pernicious poison that led him to do what he did when he rebelled. When you watch Obama carefully, and it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your color of your skin is, or what religion you have, or where you come from, or who you love, come on up and join us. And it sounds so good because we're going to be part of this family, and we're all going to hold hands. And before you know it, the Maoist unisex clothing. Everybody looks the same. All the individuals are gone. Individualism is gone. Maoist unisex clothing, the burqa. Do you get it? There's no differences between anybody. Everybody's the same. Everybody's a god. Where doesn't that happen? How about in the most beautiful country in the world where there's individual freedom, where a person can become a great boxer or a great artist or a millionaire or a painter? When there's still freedom, there's always going to be, quote unquote, inequality. The left hates that. It wants to destroy America. It wants to destroy Israel. It wants to destroy the free world because it hates individualism. It hates freedom because of what happens when there is freedom. They hate what God gave, free will and individualism. Therefore, the left needs to destroy that reality. How do you destroy that reality when somebody says, look at Islam. Look at what Islamic ideology is doing to the girls under ISIS and Boko Haram. This is what will happen. Oh, you mean Islam might have problems with it as a religion? Maybe our society is worth defending and protecting. No. See, the left can't do that. This society is not worth protecting and defending. Therefore, the victims of communism and the victims of jihad have to be pushed into invisibility because they want to destroy this place. So you see where that alliance begins to emerge? Now, here's the problem. Conservatives don't make the argument. We don't have the argument. The left is fighting 24/7. This is the problem. This is my theme. I'm not getting away from my theme. How do we bring it back? Well, first of all, how did we lose it? Why is it that when you're out on the street and you just go down and say something about Islam, people go, you're racist, and you have to go, I don't hate all Muslim people, and they say, you hate all Muslim people. How did they get there? How did we get there? How come we're not, there's a person here, Stephen Amundsen, go to his booth at the Counter Jihad Coalition, get a leaflet. He's out on the streets at the counter at Santa Monica every Saturday night. Why isn't he considered a lover of Muslims? Because when you tell the truth about Islam, and when you tell the truth about what it teaches about slavery and subjugation of the kafir, you're actually a loving human being that's supporting human rights, and you also love Muslim people, because Muslim people are the victims of their totalitarian ideology. I've worked on behalf of Muslim girls for more than a decade. I care about the Muslim girls that are the victims of female genital mutilation and honor killings and forced marriage. You're calling me an Islamophobe because I'm fighting for Muslim girls? In other words, we have to make the argument, and conservatives are not making the argument. The left is making the argument, and here's why. You see, the left has an advantage. The left has a religious mission. It's just a secular religion. They've rejected God, but it's a religious zeal. And they're fighting 24/7. The problem with conservatives is on my Facebook, I'll say, Anderson Cooper just said this, and I'll get a comment. I don't even watch that. Why do you watch that? Problem with conservatives. You're giving up the terrain. You think, I'm sorry, I don't mean you necessarily here, but I'm talking about conservatives. Conservatives believe that if they cancel their cable, they're fighting culture war. You don't get off the field during a football game and think you're going to win it. How many conservatives do I know that even sermonize to me condescendingly about what I'm doing, and then they go back to their barbecues? You have to fight the culture war. You have to make you have to fight the culture war, and you have to make the argument. I'm running out of time. I might just take 2 extra minutes, but I want to stress these themes. Here's the key on what we can do about it. David Horowitz has written a book, Take No Prisoners, The Battle Plan for Defeating the Left. He's a former leader of the left. Here's the key. Stop responding to leftist attacks with appeal to reason. You see, conservatives think that evidence will prevail. Of course you use evidence, but you have to remember, see, the left hates you. They want to destroy this society. Conservatives think that we're all, we all want the same thing. We just have a different method of getting there. No, the left is evil. The conservatives have to use leftist tactics against the left. Get this book by David Horowitz. And so what David Horowitz is saying is take the leftist tactics and use it against them and start fighting culture war. Point to the suffering that they've caused. Take the moral high ground. Stop always being afraid of being called names and start calling names back. And this is that Romney crystallized this in that third debate on foreign policy. Benghazi comes up. Oh, I'm such a nice guy. I'm a conservative. He should have said, Mr. President, the blood of those Americans is on your hands. You were complicit. You are complicit in the murder of those Americans. Now, what were you doing that night while those 4 Americans were killed in Benghazi? That's what conservatives need to do. To finish up quickly with the 2 minutes I have left, or I've gone over, the entertainment, okay? Andrew Klavan, come to my booth in the back. I work for the Freedom Center. Andrew Klavan, great novelist and author. The Crisis in the Arts, Why the Left Owns the Culture and How Conservatives Can Begin to Take It Back. His key themes: don't tune out. You don't cancel your cable. That's seeding the field. And I don't mean you have to watch a crappy movie. That's not the issue. The issue is, instead of boasting that you don't watch and walk away, develop original content of our own. We need right-wing movies. Write a script. And if you're not a writer, support somebody that is writing a script. The key, and I'm upset about this. Sorry, maybe but on my Facebook constantly, I'm like, MSNBC just did this constantly. Why do you even watch that? Because I study the enemy and want to know what he's doing so I can crush him. Why am I an immigrant I'm an immigrant fighting for this country. When are Americans going to get off the couch and fight for this country too? So ladies and gentlemen, the key to walk away from is make stuff and support stuff. Instead of having barbecues 24/7 and boasting how you don't go to movies. And so 2 things of making and supporting stuff, and I'm done. Hero in the back, Steve Amundsen. He heads the Counter Jihad Coalition. Go to the booth. This gentleman is a hero. He's on the streets in Santa Monica on 3rd Street Promenade every Saturday night handing out leaflets about Islam, about who Muhammad is, educating the public. If you don't want to stand with him, contribute a little bit to the leaflets that he's producing out of his own pocket every day. I host a show called The Glazov Gang. You know why I started it? Because I'm sick of sitting in front of the TV saying, ask the question, ask the question. I brought on Geert Wilders recently. I brought on Robert Spencer. I brought on Dinesh D'Souza. I'm inviting the people that are telling the truth. Please visit the Glazov Gang on Facebook at jamieglazov.com. You want to come on my show, come on my show. If you don't want to come on my show, support my show. Ladies and gentlemen, through the Lord and Jesus Christ, we will prevail. Amen. Thank you.